welcome to the Polarized Podcast. Another scintillating episode is coming at you. We're talking House of a Thousand Corpses, a Rob Zombie directorial debut. I am your host, James. Welcome. Come on in. The scores for this movie is a 22% by the critics, a 65% by the audience. You know what that means, folks? It's polarizing. It's a polarizing movie according to Rotten Tomatoes. We talk about movies that are disagreed upon according to the audiences and critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes the critics love it. Sometimes the audiences hate it. This is the vice versa of that. The critics fucking hate it, and the audiences have an affectation for this movie that is borderline cult classic. I don't know. I think there is a love for this movie. It is my first time. I was counting those corpses. I was trying to get to 1,000, but I don't think I got there. I hope you guys are ready for a twisted ep coming from a couple twisted guys. I'm going to bring him in right now. He is the great Brandini.
Hey, let's go.
The grandmaster of
Happy spooky ooky season, my guys. My guys and gals out there.
That's right. We are in Spooky Ookie season. This is the
this is our third year doing this too.
Debut of our spooky season. Is it our third spooky season? I remember our first spooky season. Us talking, we were like,
The Witch? Was that part of our first spooky season?
I think so. Yeah, and that was my first 100, I think. And
very wow.
I think
how far we've come.
I know. Now we're. Is this going to be a second? Who knows? But I remember, even that first year, us getting into spooky movies in general. I think we were both relatively novices. Yeah. I had my favorites like Alien or The Thing, like my sci-fi horror that I liked a lot. But then getting into something like The Witch was obviously we loved it, and that was a different sort of thing. But I say we've come a long way as scary movie enthusiasts.
I agree, man. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad that you brought it up because it was something I was thinking about too. And I feel like I said this to somebody talking about what spooky movies people like. And I just, the way that I frame it in my mind is I wasn't a horror guy really at all. I always kind of stayed away from them because by and large, I felt like, first off, I wasn't really into being scared. And second off, a lot of movies that I think about when I think of horror are like this movie, right? Where they're like really gory and gruesome and fucked up. And spoiler alert, this isn't my favorite type of movie. I'm not really much for the like super gory stuff and just in general. And some movies like this I've stayed away from, but I've watched more of them. Again, it's not like I fully converted to like now I'm a classic horror gore fan. I'm not signing up for Fangoria. But
Shudder.
I am really enjoying a larger breadth of different types of horror movies and really recognizing how like cool they are and how being scared a little bit is a unique experience that I don't mind as much now. I don't mind getting scared. And,
I think we both like explored our tastes within the genre, and I feel like we've had open minds towards it. Also revisiting movies, I feel like as teenagers I feel like we were first starting to be able to see some scary movies. The movies that were coming out during our teenage years were movies like this. And we talked about it. I think that first year we did Saw as well. We did a couple Saws. And
two, right? We did Spiral, and then
the first one and the most recent one at the time, Spiral from the Book of Saw, a fucking subtitle that just went away. I don't know if they're ever going to pull that book open again. But
just talk about being shelved.
Open and shut. Oh yeah, you shelved that book. But I think that was a lot of what was around at the time was Hostel and Saw and torture porn shit like this.
What's up with that?
That was so edgy.
What's with that, James?
I don't know. It's funny because I just watched Scream 3 and 4 recently, and each one of those they kind of course have that I don't know, that moment at some point in the movie, maybe multiple times, but especially at the beginning where they're talking about the state of scary movies in a way. And there's a moment in those movies where they kind of call it out a bit of like, you know, oh, I don't like that torture porn stuff. I like the good, like classic kind of scary movies, one of the characters says. And that was interesting to see in a very meta sort of way. And of course, a Scream movie being discussed about within a scary movie. So it kind of put my mind at ease of like, oh, it's not just me. That's just like, that was in all the fucking, what's his face beat or like Cabin Fever. What's that guy's name? Like Green Inferno. You hate all his movies, I think, but he's like Tarantino's buddy.
Oh, Eli Roth.
Roth. Yeah. Like that kind of
Hostel. Yeah.
I mean, I hear that Borderlands is the scariest one of all. It's, you know.
I know, scarily bad.
Did you hear about Craig Mazin, the guy who like created Chernobyl and like did the Last of Us show and everything, like wrote that movie, and they bastardized it so much, the script and everything, that he requested that he like use a pseudonym for the writing credit.
Something to the effect of like they wouldn't take his name off the movie, but then so he's like, well, you have to just change it to this. And then I feel like one time I looked up an IMDb credit, and it's just like this made up like the profile picture, and he's just got this made up person has one movie credit and it's Borderlands.
I want to find out what that name is.
That's funny because, Eli Roth is a good example of shit that the Hostel stuff I'm just not really into.
Joe Crombie,
that does sound like
Joe Crombie.
But like it is a subsection of horror though, because I remember growing up that there was always like people like it's like smut, right? Almost
exactly.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, like it's very like demonic, very violent, and
exploitative,
also like sexual. Very like XXX NC-17 shit. Like I can't remember some of the like seminal like movies like that.
Like Cannibal Holocaust, I think it's called right now. It's like the big one that Eli Roth fucking loves that movie and wanted to do like Green Inferno essentially and these guys like want to do an ode to those exploitation kind of scary movies and snuff kind of movies.
Snuff, yes, not smut. Snuff.
Both yes and yes. But those, especially this one where, and this is where my blind spot's going to come into view. I've seen bits and pieces of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which feels weird to talk about this movie not knowing that movie completely, 100%. But still it's like, I think
even though you haven't seen it, it's like it, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much of, that, and I'm the same way. Sorry to cut you off, but the exact same way of, I haven't fully seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remember watching once, I think like the 2005 or 6 or like somewhere around there, maybe there was an updated version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, being really frightened by the idea of it because everybody talks about how fucked up that movie is. And when somebody, I just have never been a moviegoer, and I'm a very huge fan and lover of movies, but whenever people describe the movie in a good light as being like, it's really fucked up and twisted, I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, that's not really a selling point for me, but it's so bizarre, that type of, kink shame or like yuck somebody's yum, because like as long as you're not genuinely hurting people, I guess, if you're into gore, it's just so weird in my mind to make that mental connection of like, what's that about? I've listened to some podcasts talking like from horror fans, and I get to an extent that people who do like the really gory movies are really into special effects by and large. Yeah. And that's like the attraction to it, is the idea of these practical things that are really kind of like, and some of it's in this movie too. And we can talk about it, like the monsters, right? Being really, weird and visually, like artistically, I guess, like creative, even though it's, it's like still fucked up. But I guess I get that a little.
I know at least, because there's another thing of Texas Chainsaw Massacre that we do love, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, where like we know that there's references of like a fucked up family and you're trapped with them and everything. The difference I would say with something like that, or a good version of something like that, is the building of tension. I think is so important in a scary movie for me, of like, earning the gore and earning the part where everything fucking kind of pops off and shit gets crazy. And if it's just like in your face the whole time and it's overcompensating, trying to convince you that it is scary and that it is fucked up, that's where I become numb in a way, because there's no tension. There's no sort of build up towards the murder or the gore and everything. And it's just a part of every scene. It feels like, so much so that I kind of tune off to it. But something, and it's a video game, Resident Evil 7, but that is done in such a way where it builds that. And it puts you in the driver's seat.
Totally. And the idea of, because like, and I would love to try to point this out as I go through critiquing this, because there are parts of this movie where I could see a better movie in it. Mm-hmm. But to your point is, and it's almost, it reminded me how I felt about like movies I really don't like Cruel Intentions, for example, is like everybody sucks. So it's like them dying, like them getting fucked over or killed or whatever. You're like, don't really give a shit. And then, so really to your point is like, they're overcompensating by like, I can imagine Rob Zombie, for example, looking at this and going like, I'm giving you so much like gore and action essentially for your ticket price. But again, I agree with you. It's like we start this movie off to start getting into it with a cold open where it's shitty people meeting their demise, and that's pretty much the long and the short of it.
Which I would argue how it's structured is the fucking monsters are the main characters of this movie, and in a like a slasher sort of movie, and like shitty teenagers or whatever that are, like, you get to watch them get picked off one by one or whatever. I get that sort of thing, but like, this starts with them doing like murdering somebody and then
killing robbers. So there's interesting moral stuff going on right off the rip. Is like, you're not like, okay, I'm just trying to think of what would be a good cold open. Is it's showing you, like, a cold open can show you mainly the environment, like introduce you to the environment or the world that you're entering, and it can be a side story that has a piece of what the main story is going to be. So you're starting to create a connection between the main story, but really the purpose in my mind of a cold open is to like put you in the setting, to go like, credits, House of a Thousand Corpses show them. You're like, okay, all right, I'm in this space. And it does that, but it does it in a way where, I don't know. Like, again, it's just, okay, so robbers got killed by fucked up weirdos. Okay, all right. I mean, I guess.
If I were to restructure it, the fucking cheerleaders, man, like show how the cheerleaders get abducted and how they get put in that position. I don't know, because it goes back to them constantly throughout the movie, and how they're introduced as like news footage or whatever, newspaper, and then cops kind of slowly start to trickle in and everything. But if you want to, I know, if you want to establish them as scary, like I get that point of like a cold open of like, this is the gasoline fried chicken place and of oddities and all that stuff. Like, okay. But the thing is, like, there's barely a moment for what should be the main characters, the kids. Like,
kids.
I know. They call them that the whole time. That's why.
But they're driving to the girl's dad's. I don't know. It's like, you guys are all, like 30-years-olds. Like, I don't know.
They don't establish jack shit with like who's dating who, and why are we on the road, and where are we going on Halloween Eve, and anything. It's pretty much just like, hey, we're out of gas, let's go there, and they're in. Like, it's just it's over already. And so I don't know whether you're supposed to hate or love the kids. Like, it doesn't even give you that. It's just kind of more about the fucked up nature of these monstrous people. And you can see why his other movies that I haven't seen, which I guess are part of like the trilogy of these characters, like Devil's Rejects and Three from Hell or whatever. Yeah, like are the same characters. Are you familiar
with those?
No,
I'm not familiar with it, but all I've seen is the poster. So Sid Haig and Rob Zombie's wife are back, and then maybe there's like a new edition or something like that. That's the extent of my knowledge.
I think it's the same universe or whatever. But I mean, there was a period of time, we've known each other since high school, where you kind of were listening to like Rob Zombie a little bit, right?
Oh,
like
for
the
sure.
Music and everything.
Yeah. And speaking on that, it's like, it's kind of like music for people who, I don't know, like it's stereotypical to say, because honestly, metalheads are some of the most loving and caring people I've ever met in my life. But like I don't know, there's a whole subculture that loves this kind of content where it's like very metal and sinister and satanic and whatnot. And it's very, this gives the movie way too much credit, but to like try to sympathize with somebody who does like this stuff it's so like fuck the rules a little bit, or so like fuck, society and all of that. I mean, God, it's such a, representative in Sid Haig's character where he just like tells people to go fuck themselves from the second he meets them. And it's like, what is it? It's like when he gets held up by gun. He holds his hands up with his finger, like flipping them off and stuff. And you're just like, wow, this guy's nutso.
He was kind of my favorite to watch act or whatever, but continue on about Rob Zombie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's not really him that's the problem. But yeah, I was into this music because I do like metal music, and I did get pretty over Rob Zombie pretty quickly, because he, for me, is like, I really enjoyed metal music, and he kind of is in that space of like
industrial
hillbilly rock with a little bit of industrial with metal,
the rockabilly a little bit.
Rockabilly stuff, like it's kind of like a little bit of, I don't know, I want to say it's like almost got like a country like little like twist to it and stuff, which isn't necessarily bad things, but it's just not my like, when I want to listen to metal music, it's not necessarily the metal music that I want to like, that I enjoy the most. But yeah, I dug the vibe, because I don't know, like especially when it came out, it's a time of like rebellion, and there is an attraction to this like, oh, this is evil music almost, which again is like, I'm sympathizing with people who could like a movie like this or who this movie's for. But I think as we go on, I just, now where I sit in 2024 and the age that I'm at, is like, it's really hard to overlook how it like lacks direction, and it doesn't have really a bunch of original thoughts, and the dialogue is pretty stupid, and like some of the visual stuff I'm into, but it never commits to anything for too long, and so it ends up just being like so incredibly uneven, and again at a fundamental level, like you're talking, like you've mentioned, and I agree with you, is like, that is kind of my like standard for a good horror movie, is this idea of like being well put into the place of the person that is being like chased after, or who is in trouble, and if the movie does well to transport you into that person by creating a real person, which Rainn Wilson is the only person who's like kind of a real person who actually says real shit, and then everybody else, like, it's wild, like how unlikable Chris Hardwick is, and then really also too the two girls that that are trying. nothing to do. And the things that they do say are like, yeah, like kind of like shitty and over it and who cares and stuff like that. So yeah,
They barely say anything. They just like they're asleep.
Like fuck you, bitch, or
they
something.
Are asleep when they show up. And they're like, hey, get out. We're going in. At already zero agency. Just like, I guess we're going into this fucking oddity place or whatever. And they just wake up and they go in and they just, I can't think of a single line of dialogue that they have before the dance scene where one of them just, and that's where I was like, oh, they are together. I didn't even realize. I didn't like, because I was trying to figure out like who's paired with who. Not that it matters too much, but if like things are going to get dangerous and you're going to watch out for each other, of course, friends are going to watch out for each other. But like, I was just wondering if there was like, yeah, we're going out to the cabin and we're going to double date, whatever. It just the base level of who these people are is not established. And then you just, yeah, I've 100%. Already made this point, but like them specifically and to have her be the last girl and everything, it's just and then have this thing with her father and all that stuff is just like, it happened as it happened. It didn't get established first and then get a payoff or anything. It would just happen.
Absolutely. I mean, really, yeah. We are starved for, and this movie needed a conversation in the car with everybody being like, how close of a relationship are these people? You know, why are they in the car together? Or not, I guess we know why they're in the car because they're writing stories about roadside attractions, but you need a little bit more of because he's a journalist, and then are they traveling to her parents' place because they're coming from New York maybe, and they've been going across the US and like
plans for Halloween, like yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't require much for them to have had just in the movie, have a conversation being like, you know, our final stop is your dad's place for Halloween. And, you know, we've been on this journey and kind of have more of a lived in, like, because it seems like they've been on the road for a while, and we just needed so much more about who they are, what their relationship is like. And it's just so jarring too, because of like Chris Hardwick makes this movie rough for me because he's so cartoonish.
Yeah.
You know, from the jump, this idea of they're out of gas, and then Rainn Wilson's like, how much gas did you put in the car? And he's like, I put in $1 or $2.
And he should have been able to look at the fuel gauge when they drove off and tell immediately. If that's the case.
Chris Hardwick gets like all bitchy about it.
I can't drive at night.
I can't drive at night because I'm like, what? So fucking annoying. And then it doesn't help that he like consistently is annoying about shit. Yeah. Like giving the girls a hard time for not like kind of being awake or excited about what's going on at this roadside attraction. One thing that really I thought was just drove me nuts, because like it happens in movies, but like if somebody did that in real life, I'm like, God, I don't want to be this person's friend ever, is when they're in the monster tunnel like exhibit or whatever at the rest stop, and there's a part of the ride where he's talking about some killer that like chops people up, and it's just like a shot of like this mechanical robot chopping off an arm, and then it cuts to Chris Hardwick climbs a little bit over the back seat and just goes nap nap nap, and you're like, fuck you, dude. You fucking suck ass. Like,
it just seems like somebody who was like always trying.
So funny. Yeah. That's what this guy's doing. And I'm just like, it makes me so mad. And there's so much that he does that drove me nuts. Where it's like, it's almost like Deadpool, like is the way that he was acting, where it's like nothing, like I don't care about anything. It's all up in the air for jokes, and you know, I'm so cool and so edgy, and
I guess that is a stereotype for like. No, yeah. Dude, please, I'm getting angry too thinking about it as well, because it just. I think that is a stereotype for bad, scary movies specifically, like to have the friend that's a wisecracking friend or whatever, that's not taking things seriously. But also I love how you put it, where it's like, It's like somebody who's constantly trying to make a bit out of something and it's never fucking funny.
Never funny.
And it gets so exhausting because they are constantly trying to be funny, but it's like either at the expense of other people or it's just the most obvious joke you can make that no one wants to say because it's so obvious and he's going to be the one to like do it in the most obnoxious way. Also kind of hard to
obnoxious is the thing, because like if we were in that situation and you in the back saw that and you just said like a joke and it's like, you know, I don't know, only a flesh wound or like, I don't know, something stupid, and it
What's
could be obvious, but it's like the thing that's so fucking annoying about a character like that is he's trying to be funny by making you like uncomfortable and like annoying you and like getting in your face about this, like, look at me, and it's like, ugh, fuck. And
he's like
dude.
Outwardly horny and shit, which is just like uncouth at the bare minimum.
Right. Why? Like, and yeah, so much of that stuff sucks ass for me because it's another person that we're never going to really be on their side, which is weird because like, don't you want that as a movie? Especially because they put him through the ringer, you know, and they really put everybody through the ringer.
No, Hardwick especially.
Hardwick especially. And it's weird to not want to make a point in the beginning to make these people more likable or more enjoyable. So then their demise and their punishment, and it's so much of a, like a, oh, fuck, like I'm really afraid for this person. But like, I mean, right off the bat, you're like, I couldn't give a fuck less what happens to somebody like Chris Hardwick or his girlfriend. I think one of them was like really just like, the one that at the dinner that once they get to the family, she just like calls her a bitch and like gives her shit and like gets in her face about it. And it's another goddamn example of like, if you were in that situation and you were at somebody else's place, and especially when it's as fucking freaky as it is, are you gonna like be antagonistic to that person? No, you're gonna be like, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, how do we get the fuck out of here?
No, they like show the scary dinner scene, and it's like you should be uncomfortable. This is probably a point where you're like, I don't know, maybe we should hit the road again. Instead, Chris Hardwick's like, I'm playing with my mask and I'm having fun. Ooh, this is so weird. And yeah, it makes so much sense that the other two movies are about the fucking monsters, because that's, I've already said it, but like that's where that's where the focus is. It's not about them. It's about the fucking evil people and what they're up to. Which,
do we know if that got rated better?
I think so. I think Devil's Rejects is the highest of Rob Zombie's.
I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's polarizing too. Maybe able to fit in 3 movies this month. Maybe we do Devil's Rejects.
My God. I mean, if you guys ever get the chance, I don't know, maybe we can do it later on this podcast, but he did a remake movie of The Munsters. And which is in this movie. Just the trailer. It is in this movie. You can see where he loves it, but just the trailer alone is wow. It looks like so bad in such a way that like it's just confusion when I watch it. Not like laugh at it so bad, not like ew, it's so bad, but just like confused as to how the fuck does this exist? How the fuck did he get? I guess Monsters maybe is like public domain now, because how the fuck did he get Monsters that IP?
I mean, it could be because it's very, very old, right? Yeah. It came out in what 50s. Which, sorry for anybody who's still alive. You're thriving. I'm sure you're not old. I'm sorry.
Hey, if Rob Zombie made a Monsters movie in 2022, there's still some Monsters fans out there.
I mean, I grew up on the Monsters.
Yeah. Like, Nick at Night, baby.
Family. Nick at Night, baby. We've talked about it. We're children of that generation where there was a Nick at Night channel, and that's how we watched I Love Lucy, how we watched
Bewitched,
Bewitched,
I Dream of Jeannie.
I Dream of Jeannie. What else was
Happy
on there?
Days and
Happy Days,
Brady Bunch. Watched a lot of Brady Bunch.
All of those shows, and and even in this movie to talk about the monster, like little it's on the TV, and we get some great shots of just watching the episode, and
Grandpa's yelling
yelling all the time. but they're doing a drag race competition, and the like Frankenstein's monster character, I can't remember what his name is like
Herman.
Herman is like the pit. He's like this pit crew, and he's like working on the drag car and stuff. And you're like,
Grandpa's like, I could have driven that way faster.
Yeah, and he's like, shut up!
You're missing the point.
You're missing the goddamn point.
How this movie looks, because I think, you mentioned that earlier. I think that's like an interesting way to get in, because I can see why, like looking at Rob Zombie's IMDb before his directorial debut, he directed a lot of his music videos and an Ozzy Osbourne music video. And I could totally see why, where there's like flashes of like an interesting look or composure of something, but it's just flashes, man. Cause everything else is so fucking messy and ugly. And I'm sure he purposely made a lot of this movie ugly. This movie is ugly, but the way that he chose to instill the 70s graininess into it, along with like the saturation, like there's an element to it that I see what he was going for, and there's moments where it works well. Even like, I don't know, the opening shot of showing the neon sign and going down, I was like,
killer cam. Yeah.
Well, just like right. They used some sort of crane or something, because it started on the sign and then lowered down into the gas station or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, a little crane shot or whatever. And when they go when she goes at the end into the big bone sculpture, I was like, wow, that looks cool. And
yeah, it's kind of shot from like a lower level. So it's like it's almost below her waist. And yeah, you get to see the, insane room, which, yeah, what that represents and all that is wild.
But a lot of the other stuff, is amateurish in a way that's he wants it to be that way. And I guess a lot of the stuff that I particularly did just fucking hate, but was the interstitial stuff of just random bullshit of like, oh, we're going to the next scene, but before we do, we're going to show random shots of his wife dancing, or just shots of like driving through the fields, or weird old signs and, along the roadside, or a guy with like with a shotgun, I mean, God is coming, or whatever. And
God, no, we're in hell. Yeah.
We are in hell. Yeah. But like, I guess the movie was already made. He invited his friends over to his place and just shot with like a little video, like hand cam or whatever, all this random bullshit, and just threw it in to edit around. And that is the kind of stuff that is so overcompensatory. Like it's overcompensating so much in a way that's like, you're not confident that things can just exist on its own. You got to fucking pump it full of twisted, upsetting stuff. And it made me dizzy at sometimes with how like crazy the handy cam was. And even like the cops at like, they're driving around at some point near the end, and they're just driving down the road, and it's just doing all this crazy fucking shit that editing choices that were, I could see working in like a music video.
Very contemporary. It's a lot of like fast editing. It's a lot of what was very popular at the time, but that's not good. You don't want
like a bad Natural Born Killers kind of.
For sure. I agree. Yeah. Cause like, I feel like the intent of a lot of that stuff is to make it seem like these old horror movies, and purposely look like these old horror movies, but it's almost like it just puts a filter on it, and the camera isn't positioned well, or it isn't actually shot on like a film that's actually what you want. You're just taking like more of a digital camera approach, and then just putting a filter on it and being like, oh, this is like this is like House on the Left, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it just looks like dog shit. Also too, that I want to bring up that infrared shit that gets used. Do you remember that?
That was the cops are driving around and it shows like a fucking negative infrared, infrared, of just them driving around. It's like, why?
Who cares?
And even a shot that I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool, but then I realized, oh, like yeah, it's just so amateurish when Walton Goggins gets executed, that slow crane up.
Oh my God. And it stops for a while. I thought I paused my video.
The thing is, like, I don't think it fully stops, which is what, like, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then it like, it does look like it stops, but I think it's still kind of moving a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And then the guy who has the gun is being told off camera, like, okay, shoot now. And he wasn't told to shoot now because they're like, we can go a little bit higher, a little bit. Okay, now shoot.
Tension we're building, yeah. Oh my God.
It was almost good. I was like, if you guys just somehow made that 5 seconds shorter and have him shoot or something, but that's where it just felt like, oh, we can get this cool crane shot. And then it made how long it lasted. It made me realize, like, oh, he just did this for the shot rather than being like in the mode in the movie and everything. But yeah, I mean, the looks and everything, it's an ugly movie throughout everything. And yeah, like I said, there's just those flashes of the color, calling back to a 70s sort of saturation, which there's elements where I kind of almost like it as the best I can say. But as far as like,
yeah, but again, it's like, it's one of those things that was really prevalent in this time of filmmaking that is a big no-no, because hopefully we've learned that it looks like shit, and the why of it is wrong in my mind. We've talked about this like in examples like movies like Swordfish or whatever.
Oh my God, that's a great example too.
Or just generally, these filmmakers grew up on the gritty 70s films. So these guys that are making these movies in the early 2000s are huge 70s film buffs, but time and time again, they do the color correction and saturation to make it look like a 70s, but it is not framed like a 70s movie.
And it's not shot on film.
It's not shot on film. It's like, again, it's a typical digital filmmaking perspective of everything's like really clear. It's pretty close up on the action, and then they just put a filter on it, essentially. But a real 70s movie, a lot of the times it's like really far back. You get like it's more of a widescreen, and it's more about natural colors, and the oversaturation makes everything unnatural, that's the sin of it all in my mind. Is like, you're not paying a good homage to these 70s films just by color correcting it to make it look like this, because there's no way to unnaturally, at least at this time, maybe it is now, but because like I would assume like The Holdovers, Thomas Paine's movie,
that's a great example of something done well in that style. Yeah, that's very difficult to do, to make it actually feel like that, because definitely people want that sort of feeling, but it's definitely not done well in a lot of times. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's so funny because like these guys again really love these gritty 70s movies and whatnot, and it's weird to think that they feel like they're paying a good homage by doing this kind of bullshit where you're just nonsensically putting in things that are heavily filtered, and you're just like adding stuff in ways that like are more avant-garde, but they're just like kind of bringing like things to a halt and like not really moving things along. Like, yeah.
It really feels like a haunted house. You're just going through the haunted house, like, ooh, scary this, ooh, scary that. But there's nothing holding anything together. It's just you're going along for the ride and just shown scary things.
Absolutely. And
like shaking you like with like, I feel discombobulated. I guess I'm scared. I don't know. Look at it.
Something you brought up that, is really good to just kind of reiterate of how much this movie is influenced by him coming from making music videos, because like just what you said with the Walter Goggins, like when he dies, it was really kind of dumb to me, but a very music video is a lot of that like gunpoint tension and cops getting killed was all with music over it, and people were actually like saying words but you couldn't hear them, and there was just music playing over it, and then it's got that phonetic editing where it's like with the music kind of cutting through into the house, back outside of the house, and all of this shit, and it really takes the like wind out of the sails of the first cop getting murdered and the standoff and the potential like overall battle between those two. Like, I mean, also too, the battle is very quick. It's like, nope, you're dead. Nope, you're dead. Nope, you're dead. And okay, great. So everybody's dead.
And I hate the song choices too. It's like,
no,
it's just, cool. Isn't this so contradictory? Isn't this so, we're playing a brick house over a fucking torture scene. It's like, I watch Clockwork Orange and I can do the same thing, but it's just, it just doesn't mean anything. It just, there's no meaning behind it. And that music video style, like, and the haunted house thing, it just really feels like vignettes of horror surrounded by this family. And even like like transferring from Sid Haig's character in The Clown in the oddities shop to going to the tree and even picking up that's I think his wife that gets picked up, or one of the ladies that gets picked up, and the combination of it just is so disparate in those moments as well. It doesn't really like tie everything together, and like they sit down to watch this show. Yeah, and Chris Hardwick is like, yay! Woo!
Yeah, he's like losing his
so
mind.
Hot. Oh wow, this is great. And but then
it sucks. And I mean, it's also really, it's not how do I frame this? Because like I was going to say, it's not a fun performance, almost like from like a physiological sense, because the way the show starts is the grandpa just yells pussy over and over again. And Hardwick is, just losing his mind. Like even says, this guy is so funny. And like, he's just screaming pussy with like porridge coming out of his mouth. And it's so fucking lame and just, not funny. Well,
yeah, it's like he looks at it like, in my mind, a reaction is good, whether people are grossed out or titillated. And I think in his mind, people are kind of titillated by some of this shit. Is like what he's kind of going for. Is like there's horror, there's grotesque things. He
puts his wife in like a G-string. I mean, crazy, right?
Yeah, I just don't. That sexual violence is something that I don't understand the way that it's framed in this, and that's, I guess, like the snuff and the exploitation of it all. But that's something that I'll never get on board for, and that'll never speak to me, and that's not ever something in a movie that I feel like I'll want to seek out, unless it's like really truly trying to upset you. But when it gets to those points, let's flip on a fun brick house or some other thing. And like people are going to laugh at this, or when he sees people watching it, if they're like, ew, gross. Oh, it's like, oh, this horror movie is working really well because they're grossed out. And to me, that is not something I necessarily want to experience a lot during a movie. Maybe certain points in a horror movie, it gets to that like, ooh. But seeing a guy eating through prosthetics Agatha Crispies, which look like fucking out of a dog bowl and everything, and have it last so long, and have him just like
very like Misery, right?
Yeah, I guess she's tied up, but it's not a good version of it. It's just I
love that actor though, the big guy.
Yeah, he's in Big Fish.
Big Fish.
Love that guy.
When he came on screen, I was a little weirded out because he's got the mask and all the prosthetics, but I'm like, I know this guy. He seemed like a really wonderful human being. He's probably the sweetest man ever.
I bet.
Because he's got that gentle giant, like, even as like a fucked up weirdo, he kind of still has that energy of like, oh, well, I mean, he's just like, it's not his fault.
Yeah. He's simple.
He's just a product of the circumstance.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Everybody else is the problem.
I mean, but pretty much down the line of the IMDb, when I would click on people's names, like known for House of a Thousand Corpses, like a lot of people didn't do other stuff besides like Walton Goggins. The grandpa was like an old actor that's been in a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I guess a few here and there. It's cool to see someone like Walton Goggins making a career past this, because that guy is the fucking best.
Mm-hmm. He really is. Yeah, it's fascinating to think about. Yeah, this movie 2005, him being in it, and then really we've just seen such a Goggin renaissance happening over the last like not too long, right? I would say like I think people really started.
It's like Django and Hateful Eight. I feel like were some of the big ones.
Yes, it's like that. People start to take notice, but I feel like really people started to notice. Yeah,
kind of right after this.
First TV stuff, you know. Like that's where he, I don't know.
Really Righteous Gemstones, I think got another season coming, season 4. So
that show's funny as fuck.
It's funny.
It's funny.
What's funny in this movie, Brandon? Is there anything that's funny? I'm trying to think if I had a laugh. Have a laugh. Did you have a laugh?
You have a laugh.
I mean, we got Rainn Wilson. I don't know who else is funny. Hardwick is not. There's not a moment that I laugh with him. I guess. It's just like Sid Haig with the middle finger thing was kind of a funny like visual thing, and just him like snorting when he was laughing in front of the pigs, and he just happened to wear like his pig shirt or whatever.
Hot dog shirt. Yeah.
No, when he's talking to the pigs, he has like this shirt with like a picture of a pig on it, and I was like, real, subtle there. But yeah, I think this movie is supposed to be darkly humorous in some way. It doesn't. We're going through the list of like all the things that it fails on. And was trying to think of like any sort of like silver lining about this movie, but it was just so upsetting.
Yeah. I mean, I think to speak positively about it, I am interested when I zoom out enough of the concept that there is a person working the streets that brings people into the house, and then the house is actually one level, and then the house is actually working for a lower level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and each one is more intense evil. I found that to be interesting because I think it's relatively successful in communicating that the drama and the of the Dr. Satan is like seeping from underground and affecting the people on top. And then that is like, facilitating this whole network of evil that is operating under like capturing people who stop at the gas station and then are lured into the house, which then those people are dropped into the well or to the hole and then fed to Dr. Satan. I mean, for a horror movie that's not bad, right? I hate
a lot of times I don't like exposition dumps, but if there was one that just how you explained it there, I think that might have put it together a little bit more for me. Now that I think about it, I put those things together in my mind in the same way I was kind of complaining earlier about the women being so separate from the oddity shop and everything. And then how it does escalate at the end. I think I was just so over it by that time, but I thought going into that's the big skull sculpture. And then I thought the doctor, the guy that was like working on it.
Yeah, Dr. Satan.
Is that Dr. Satan?
I
thought he looked pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, where he's like got these like needle hands and you can see I was like, ooh, this guy's fucking gross.
I like that.
Okay, but
kind of Mad Max.
Almost to the point you didn't fully make, but you were alluding to, at least the way that I interpreted what you said is like, we were shown what Dr. Satan looked like in the monster tunnel at the gas station. And so we are introduced to what he looks like. But then when we finally get there, there's almost like two Dr. Satan. There's the Dr. Satan that's the actual Dr. Needler, but then there's the monster that honestly looks more like what we saw originally. So then it was kind of like, which one's Dr. Satan?
Yeah, because even at the end when he's like, I'll bring you to the doctor, and then she wakes up and she's looking at both of them, I feel like. She's looking at the surgeon and then she sees the eyes or whatever,
like spews out gross, right? Where he goes like,
that was one of the vocal reactions I had in the movie. I'm like, come on.
Come on. I was eating breakfast. Like I said, I watched this in the morning and I stopped eating. I was like, okay. Because I had like half a bagel left and I was like, I don't want this.
That was one of my least favorite editing choices during that moment too, when he's about to swing the axe and then the edit just goes like back and forth to them really quick. It's like, and then he hits the thing and it like caves in on him. But that kind of stuff was just, it's so overdone and underdone at the same time. It's so weird.
Sure, because the setting is great for a horror movie, right?
I was kind of impressed. Yeah.
And there's like, you see the 1,000 corpses, right? Because like, and it's also a slow roll, which was pretty interesting. Is like, the girl escapes and runs to the graveyard, and then it's like a fuckload of crosses, like a bunch of graves, right? And then you go underneath the ground, and then it's nothing but skulls, and emphasizes skulls. And then you get to this weird rec room that monsters are watching TV and eating food. And then you're like, wait a minute.
Those are the experiments.
Like a recovery room? Like, is there, so, okay. So when he lobotomizes you, you get to eat cereal and watch TV afterwards. It was so bizarre. He actually kind of like stumbles into the room, and then everybody's like, wait a minute. You're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, wait, what are we? And then it goes over to the actual monster. You're like, whoa, that guy is fucking creepy as hell.
And Chris Hardwick just gets milked, man. Like he gets half scalped, and then he gets a full scalp at that point. And he just hangs around the movie, just not speaking or anything, but just there. And and even opening up to Walton Goggins opens up to the cheerleaders, and like you kind of get a little glimpse of what happened there. The father gets shot, and I thought like one of the scare, like that wasn't just gross, but like, oh, it's creepy and it could be done better, but it's still creepy of like, and it's gross as well. But when he puts on the father's face and the body and everything, like, and then is freaking, like give us a kiss and all that stuff. I was like, this is an idea that is fucked up and could kind of work on me a little bit too. And maybe a better movie, but I'm sure that's like, called back to Texas Chainsaw on the face and everything. Yeah.
Like I love that point of, yes, that is interesting. This idea of doing this to these cheerleaders and to these kids because of maybe they're motivated by them, being freaks and being outcasts and being weirdos, and like kind of the driving force behind their like need to mutilate them and turn them into the pieces of art was also kind of this very like mentioned, but never fully fleshed out, this idea of like he needed to be inspired to turn these corpses into artwork and stuff.
The Rainn Wilson thing, I like that idea of like making them a part of the oddity shop. You could have gone that a little bit further with that, but the fish boy thing, that was pretty effective.
Oh yeah, that was disgusting. I really freaked out. I would say that was honestly one of the more scarier things.
Agreed.
And that's honestly what we've been talking about this whole time, is the reason that it's fucking scary is because that was the only person in this whole movie we were like kind of like on board with. So when he gets mutilated and turned into this disgusting like art corpse fixture, it really made me almost throw up. I was like really like, oh no, fuck, this sucks.
And it's just a still like look at it, like not like any action or anything. It's just like, look at this, look at what happened. And it's the practical effects of that are pretty good too.
Yeah. I mean, it is funny though, because it shows the whole like art installation. And it's clearly like Rainn Wilson in like half of his body's underneath the table and the top half is above it, because it's like he's on a table that has like a drape in the front of it, and it's like kind of like a high table, so it's like you can clearly see it's like, oh, it's it's him doing like a magic, one of those magic tricks where half of his body is underneath the table or whatever.
Yeah, and if I walked into a haunted house and I saw that just there, I'd be like, whoa, and then like the guy starts moving or something because his whatever. But
he's not. Yeah,
that's all it is. It's just like you walk through this scary haunted house and walk out and no substance, and that was pretty scary, and I just go on with my day. But
totally.
I don't know. It's just so surface level in a way, this movie, and when it's about to get a little deeper, it just kind of cruises right past it. And I don't know, I'm kind of nearing the end of my thoughts on this a little bit. Like, is there any big stuff that we're kind of like leaving out? I check out my notes here a little bit. I really didn't take much notes either.
I was just any notes. Yeah, I was kind of just let the movie happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I really needed notes too, because I mean, it's not like it's a complicated story, and it's not like there's, I don't know. Again, there wasn't a lot of things that I was watching where I felt compelled to be like, oh, I need to write this down because this is like, would be worth talking about.
Right, dude. I know.
I feel so bad. I'm like, no. It's just like, I watched it. I got it. We'll get into our overall feelings here, it sounds like, soon, but yeah, it's like I don't know, I didn't feel compelled at all to write anything. I watched the movie. It wasn't like I was really like second screening. I really watched the movie. I remember it because it just happened today, but yeah, I didn't feel compelled at all, really.
There was enough batshit dialogue happening right off the bat that I was like, oh, the whole movie's going to be like this. I don't need to write every little crazy line down. I took very little notes, but one of the lines I did write was, how long you been running this place? How long is a piece of string? Was his response. Too long.
Oh, that's a saying? Right. Yeah. Huh?
Okay.
And then, what's funny too to that point is like, then the conversation continues and Rainn Wilson is just like a normal person explaining like, oh, we're writing about like oddities throughout America. And, you get what we're talking about, right? Like if you were to travel to another town, you might find something similar to this, right? And then he's like, huh? What are you talking? I don't go anywhere. It's like, right. But if you did go somewhere, couldn't you imagine that this could, people like you exist somewhere else? He's like, yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere. He's like, but if you did, and then it was like this.
If you ask one more dumb question.
Yeah, right. And then he's like, what's with all the shitty questions? You're like, all right, well, fuck. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry to bother you. Fuck, I'll just turn up this movie. That's the kind of energy it's like putting out in the world. It's like, okay, well, if you can't fucking meet me on my level, then fuck you. I'm out of here.
How about that chicken? He had a shirt on that said, if I wanted to listen to an asshole, I'd fart.
I saw that shirt. The giant guy, he had a shirt on I really liked, and I didn't write it down, but I remembered it, and it just said, what did it say? It said cheap Halloween costume?
Cheap ass Halloween costume, something. Yes. And it was just a shirt with like red letters. I was like, that's pretty funny. Pretty good. You know what? That's Agatha Christie's. I think Agatha Christie's is my favorite, though. Yeah, that was
okay. You know what? That's so, you asked earlier, when did I laugh in this movie? I think all of the scenes involving Matthew McGrory, the big guy, the things I was like, oh, this is funny. You know what? And the reason they were funny is because, I don't know, again, that gives off an energy of like when Sid Haig wears a shirt like that, clearly from jump, he's a sarcastic asshole who doesn't give a shit about anybody. So him wearing that shirt is like, it's almost like if you, like, you're like, I don't want to talk to that person, but the big guy and his shirt, it's kind of, I don't know, since he's never positioned as an asshole. If anything, they're like, he's a very, like, has a sweet heart. Like the mom says that. I know we haven't really talked about the mom, but I don't know if we really need to. Or Rob Zombie's wife, because like, again, like, what do you need to say? It's like, it's honestly, the only thing I would say that always kind of made me uncomfortable is like, and maybe I'm being a prude. I don't know. I had this like, this argument in my head about this is of like, sexualizing my wife on screen, like making a point of like the camera looking at her ass and her wearing clothes and shit like that. Cause like there's 2 times in the movie where like right when Rainn gets there, there's just a clear shot of her pants are like sliding down her butt. And then she like sits next to him, but the camera's like, look at this ass. Mm-hmm. And then she goes into that liquor store with, what is it, Goober? And, she's wearing like assless chaps, and then the camera's like right looking at her assless chaps as she's walking in. And I don't know how you feel about this, but this idea of like, Well, I mean, it's his wife, so like, if she's okay with it, then I don't know. I guess it's fine. But
it's like you feel like you're kind of a part of their kink or something. Like bringing you in.
Yeah, like,
this is consensual for me.
Sucked into this fucking.
But I mean, I guess if you're gonna marry a guy like Rob Zombie, yeah, I guess you're gonna be down to. I wonder if she's in like some of his like music videos and stuff too.
I bet, because I mean, her like IMDb or whatever she is a actress and a model, I think is usually how I saw it.
I think she's like, really only acted in Rob Zombie's movies. And I saw that she was in a brief stint of Californication, Brandon. I don't know if you remember, but I guess she was in a little bit of that, which I could kind of picture. But I think the thing that doesn't make me have a lot to say about them is that their beats as an actor, their wants and needs and how they portray it is the same throughout. And it gets really fucking boring when I get that they're, crazy kind of cult member sort of people. But they're just laughing and having a great time the whole way. Like if there was like a different side of them I saw, it would have been a little bit more interesting, but they're just doing the same thing the whole time. And that kind of goes for all the characters. They're very flat characters that don't really offer a lot of depth. I know it's like, maybe this isn't the movie that I should want something like that.
No,
like every single character is kind of doing the same thing every scene. And that was boring and one note for them as actors and for the movie as well. I get that they all have their roles to fill within the family and everything, but I don't know, like that, it just was like such a, portrayal of like crazy or like such an obvious stereotypical sort of way. And there's some mention of the Manson. Has some characters say like the Manson girls or something, or like kind of hot or something? Was that in this movie?
That was Chris Hardwick.
Wow, fucking of course it is. So I don't know. It was really trying to elicit that a little bit, but that got old for me after a while. The little bit between the older cop and bringing him into the house is pretty good, I guess, about their chemistry and leading him in and everything, but it's just so brief and there's just no ratcheting up of tension, as I said, and no living in a moment for an hour and a half movie and everything. There's anytime there could be a brief moment, they throw in all this fucking crazy editing and weird shots to like think that they're jolting you awake or something, but it's like, no, motherfucker, like I'm awake. I just saw, Agatha Christie's getting spilt out of a mouth, and I just saw like, fucking how many fucking torture scenes, and so the father, is that like the father or whatever, like that's who he is, right? They call him daddy, and he wears like the mask or like the face and all that stuff, and he's kind of orchestrating everything. And then at the end, he's just laying in the back of the car.
Oh my God!
She doesn't even see him in a convertible.
Because she's so
she's out of it. Right?
Yeah, she's out of it. But
just like
it's also to like it's such corny bullshit, where it's like,
it's the camp that it's trying to instill as well. And I get that it's the snuff and the exploitative sort of thing, but it's also trying to be very campy. And we've talked about this on this podcast before, where it's just a contrived camp. Like, and that's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For the most part, it doesn't, because it's trying so hard to be campy, when a lot of the best parts of a campy thing is when it's done sincerely in a certain mode, and then the audience takes it and digests it and comes up with their own interpretation of it, which is like, I'm not laughing with you, I'm laughing at you. But if the person who's making the piece of art already is trying to instill that reaction in the audience, it's a very fine line to try to pull that off. And most of the time, I don't think it works. And I think there's a lot of things that try to elicit nostalgia as well, mixed with that camp, that is just so contrived. And I think for somebody who has never even seen all of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I can just feel it, that he's trying to be something that it already happened. So why the fuck would I watch this movie? And why wouldn't I just watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Totally.
I don't know, but this is a polarizing movie. And there's a lot of the audience members that do really like it. I'll take.
Yeah. And I mean, to like speak on the polarization of it, like you got to just assume that a fair amount of it is probably Rob Zombie fans, just by and large, showing up for Rob Zombie. And given Rob's whole vibe in his music videos and his music and his looks and all of this stuff is like, I mean, he's given people that like him probably exactly what they want. It's like, I don't know, fucked up practical visual effects and like, guns and violence and sex and rock and roll,
That's totally fair. Yeah. Like he didn't come out of nowhere. He was Rob Zombie before he made this movie. So I mean, it's like from Rob Zombie, House of Thousand Corpses, like, essentially a version of like, what you're going to get. And people want more.
Like sold out, right? Like, he didn't, you definitely don't get that sense that he's, trying to be somebody he's not. So, you know what? That'll be my biggest accolade to the movie.
I really like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I want to be like that and mix of my own stuff as well. A little, it's a half monsters, half Texas Chainsaw Massacres. That's his whole vibe. There was when they're driving in the car when they first pick her up. She's like, "Oh, I love this song. Turn it up." And it is the most insane song I've ever heard in my life. It is like the most lo-fi, like barely even can. It's like coming through AM radio on the shitty channel. And it's just a weird instrumental of like, she's like, "Yeah, I love this.
This is my favorite.
This is my song."
Whoa.
I guess I kind of laughed at that a little bit, but Showtime, that was something where the grandpa said Showtime and it had that whole big Showtime title card. If there was less crazy editing and everything, that would have hit harder too, which is I keep on finding other ways to say it, but like when you do all this other stuff and then you do find a moment to try to build tension, it doesn't work. Or if you do try to do something that like is original and unique and like, if out of nowhere, that would have been kind of cool if I didn't expect something like that to happen and there to be a big Showtime title card. I'm like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah, right.
But when it's mixed with all the other bullshit, it just doesn't do anything. Yeah.
No, totally. Yeah. It's
and the split screen, it just for the most part is pointless. Yeah.
Yeah. It comes off as, it's just ineffective. It's contrived. It's so clearly wearing your inspirations on your sleeve and it's not really bringing enough of you and your own spin and invention to it. You're just like, here's a thing that I like and here's a thing that I like. And it's just, it would behoove him to have more of a focus, more consistent mood and theming and like aesthetical cohesion throughout it and like more just getting a little bit more laser focused on stuff as opposed to just having this more very chaotic collage of influences that don't really have much to say other than what they've already said. And it's like it's very cheap to me to do that, to not really. The only intention is to go look how cool this thing that existed was. Like, you need more. It's like, it is cool. Okay, and like, and what about it?
And having like characters, like they're like, just there's no this is all artifice to be some like, which very much is a music video too. You don't need to worry about so much about characters and dialogue and everything. It's just all about the artifice and the visual nature of it and just pushing along a series of events. But he has no care for either fleshing out characters or having them be a part of it. They are just pawns in the game. They're all props to be used to create set pieces and scenes that he already has in his head. And it's just such a reverse engineered sort of thing of like, we need to get here and there. It doesn't really matter who or what. It just is, we just want to have this happen. And why, like, you need to care in some way, shape, or form about the people in the movie. And
you do.
You do. Yeah.
You know what? To me, I am just pretty like not deeply knowledgeable on like Rob's like a lot of Rob Zombie stuff, but I've seen him in interviews like on Howard Stern and places like that, and he seems like such a like mild-mannered, articulate, nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And it's like a classic situation of like all of this like edgy, dramatic, sinister look is really just, it's almost like it's playfulness,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like having a sensibility of like, like
It's camp a little bit.
Right. And I honestly, I wish there was more of that in this movie of sure, characters could be grotesque looking and be sinister and objective, but they need more like interesting things to say and more motive or more motivation conveyed to us so that we can just understand at least the depth of like why we should give a shit about any of these people. And it really just doesn't care. It's so it's a short movie, like it's crazy. Like it's not that I want this movie to be longer, definitely not, but there's so much time spent on, like we said, like infrared car driving sequences and shit. It's like, get that shit out of there. Remove some of this stuff of like somebody just yelling the same thing over and over and over again, and fill this movie up with like more conversations with the family talking to each other, so you have a better dynamic of like where everybody is power wise, or like what each individual family member's motivations are, or at least, you know, like all of that. And it just, this movie is starved for it because what's presented to us, at least the way that I feel about it, is it's like, again, I mean, now I feel like a broken record, but it's hard to give a shit about this movie that doesn't really like give a shit about me or give a shit about its characters. So shit, that's rough. I'm sorry.
No, I feel like I'm about.
I gotta say it.
There's not much else for me to say without sounding like a broken record too, because you already know that things are going to be bad at the place. Like that's how the cold open started. And so when they arrive, it's a matter of when they are about to find out that things are wrong. And at the point that they do, and the point where things kick off is like lame as well. They're driving away, and then Rainn Wilson just gets like smacked in like the ugliest dark. It's like dark with a lame blue light. He just comes out of nowhere with this random fucking mask. And then the girl's like, lock the doors, get in the fucking driver's seat and drive away. Come on.
Be more of an active participant.
It's like, oh no, if we just close the doors and lock them, we'll be okay.
We're done. We're caught. We're busted.
And that was a moment things you're like, oh my God, things aren't going to go on that. Yeah. From that moment
it's also
on,
telegraphed too. There's just this movie lacked. I don't think ever in this movie I was surprised or genuinely scared. I was unnerved, right? Mm-hmm. Like unsettled because of just the sheer grotesque images on the screen. But I never was like scared. I never really was like, what's going to happen? Like every fucking which way, this movie just clearly telegraphs to you what is going to happen. Like your point with the car driving scene, already leading up to that, we've got introduced to the person who's telling them where to go as being a person who can easily kill somebody, who like doesn't care about people. So it's just like, well, we obviously know he's sending them to a place they're going to get hurt. And then once they get there, it's like, how convenient is it that this girl is there and like, you should go to that house that's right next to this tree. And it's like, every step of the way, you're not like, what's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. I know, man, I have no idea what I'm in for. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm in for.
I wish I wasn't so done with the movie by the time it happened, but I was a little surprised to see like zombie guys coming out of the water when they got lowered down. I'm like, oh, they're going to get buried alive. Okay, that's pretty scary. But because he started throwing the dirt down and everything. And then he put this recorder down with a light. And I was like, what's that for? And I guess it was to bring all the people to life or whatever. And I was like, man, I really wish I was still invested because I just don't care anymore. But some of that stuff at the end had, the tunnel looked okay, and
absolutely,
and the surgeon and the bone sculpture and everything.
The physical stuff. That's another thing too, right? It's like I think both of us agree that the practical effects are not bad. It's not like things really looked interestingly, and really, I mean, honestly, now I have to say, like, this is a huge credit to the movie. Is none of the costuming or the practical effects were bad. There wasn't a time where I was like, ooh, that looks like shit. And there are plenty of times in movies like this where you're clearly like, this looks like shit. You know, this looks like cheap. It isn't edited correctly, where you kind of like see too much or, you know, you see too little. And like, it just, it does well. And it does thrive, which is a major objective of this movie. And
I mean, the set looked like fucking shit, and like all the fucking clutter of everything, like that was purposeful, and like that's what he wanted to do, whether it's for me and whether I want to be in that space. You know, obviously it's a scary movie, and you
don't necessarily want to be there.
That's the whole point of it. But like, but it is, it's like realized in a way. And when Walton Goggins is walking around being like, man, they need a yard sale, and there's just fucking like stockings, like Christmas stockings lining when they get areas and stuff. And like,
right when they get to the house, she's like, this is my wall where I took all the dolls' heads off and posted them to the wall. And we're like, okay. Oh, you know what? We're getting away in the car.
I mean, more implications, like opening a door and seeing a pile of shoes. Oh, that means something. You can see a pile of shoes and not have it be explained to you. You just be like, oh, you know, there's a lot of clutter, but then this pile of clutter like actually means something. And I don't know. I love those parts of scary movies where you can intuit the things yourself. And I wish, I loved how you described the 3 levels of it all. And if there was a little bit more access in as the audience to get into the mystery of this place or whatever, but I don't want it to be over-explained either. So I don't know. I just felt like I was in the hands of a fucking madman for this whole ride. And it was a quick one, but even then it was exhausting. And it didn't do a lot for me, this whole thing. So that'll be where I leave it for now. And I would say we can take a look at some thoughts. You want to take a break at all, or should we keep on going?
Let's take a quick bathroom break.
All right.
And then, let's get into it.
Okay. Be right back. All right, we are back. House of a Thousand Corpses. We are returning to our discussion, and actually, I think we're done with our discussion. I think we want to hear a little bit more from the critics and the audiences online. Why we are here is because it is polarizing to these two camps of people. When did this movie come out again? 2003 sounds about right. We were 13-year-old boys. This should have hit well for edgy edgelords like us, but I was not allowed to see it.
Come on, edgelords.
That's us. I mean, Hot Topic. I mean, that was a thing at the time.
Totally.
Let's check it out. Top critics from Rotten Tomatoes. We'll go with Jamie Russell from BBC.com. A tour de farce of depressing inanity that's unable to do anything more than offer a messy, incoherent pastiche of other better movies. That kind of nailed it. That was a 1 out of 5 from them. Daniel Feinberg from LA Weekly. Zombie wants his film to be gleefully demented, but he fails to grasp that loud, inbred, evil people torturing stupid, grating, benign people isn't disturbing as much as tedious.
Totally.
from Adam Naiman, I Weekly. I haven't heard of this publication, but it's on Rotten Tomatoes, so we got to read it. Zombie's attempted postmodernism has neither the intelligence nor the conviction to work. He may fancy himself a genuine devil, but he comes off here as a poser of cheap and low order. Tim Cogshell for Box Office Magazine, if that even is a thing. Over the course of the film, many funny, gory, and silly, but not particularly horrifying events occur. Not scary. Rick Groan from Globe and Mail. Groan that sounds like one of the names you'd see at the beginning of a Treehouse of Horror episode. They do all the fun little scary names. In this field of endeavor, any intense reaction is unsustainable for the obvious reason that the guiding principle of repetition comes with an inevitable corollary and unavoidable side effect: sheer boredom. So I felt like I'd numb at a certain point to everything and just wanted to turn my mind off and go away. Owen Gleiberman Entertainment. What's that? I don't want to be around anymore. I want to see him in a scary movie.
Oh,
Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
I just want to see more of him.
Yeah, doing that haunted house bit that he does.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did any of these fuckers ever just bust out of the wall and blow a huge cum load?
Would have loved for him to just... Actually, that might have fit in this movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally.
That's something Hardwick would say. Owen Gleiberman from Entertainment Weekly says...
I wish. Man, could you imagine instead of Chris Hardwick, it was Tim? Oh, my God.
Damn it.
Oh, I would love that so much more.
Yeah. Because then, just like...
Then it would be funny.
Like, you know? His performance is very emblematic of the movie as well. It's just like you could be deadpan a little bit with some of the jokes that you're making and all that stuff. But you're like, haha, look at how funny I am because I'm loud and doing a lot of hand motions and stuff. It's like, tone it down. Tone it down, movie. Tone it down, Hardwick. No points for you. No points for Hardwick in this movie.
Yes.
Owen Gleiberman said House of a Thousand Corpses isn't coherent exactly, but what dripping ghoul horror movie is these days? Speaks to the state of horror movies, I guess, at that time and how critics felt about them. And we'll do one more from Scott Foundis from Variety. A cobwebbed, mummified horror entry that makes obvious, cartoonishly grotesque demands for attention. Just wants your attention so bad. It's like, look at me. Look at it. Look at how fucked up it is. Let's check out some audience reviews from Letterboxd. I've been enjoying the Letterboxd reviews. All 5 stars here for the audience I'm going to be reading off of. Ian,
follow us on Letterboxd too. What's that? Quick plug, yeah. Follow us on Letterboxd, yeah. Sure, yeah. What is my? Do you know your Letterboxd handle? We should have a polar. I guess Polarized. We can't really have one because we think differently about movies. But I'm Disco Volanti. Disco Volanti. VOLANTI for the Volanti. Me. One of my more recent... I just changed my name. That's why I'm sorry. It's going to take me just a minute. But no, one of my recent entries was 5 stars for Hundreds of Beavers. 3.5 for Sleeping with the Enemy. Those are some of mine. Mine, I just did some reviews as well. Yeah. Oh, I can pull you up. I see. I am the Grey Brandini. Oh, really? Oh, yay. I'm the Grey Brandini. I believe is my... Or we'll each read a review. Read one of your reviews. Yeah, my most recent review is GoldenEye. Nice. GoldenEye! What'd you say about GoldenEye? I gave it 4 stars, and I said it's an incredible villain, the best Bond girl, and Pierce Brosnan striking the right balance of the Bond persona. For me, it's a ton of the visual stylings that just don't look good. The casualty of the era, the best Brosnan of the era, for sure. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely the best Brosnan. I get the visual element of that one, but yeah, it's still one of my favorite Bond movies. It's so fun. And our era, you know, of in a way, Pierce Brosnan, even though I'd like to take ownership of Daniel Craig as well. I mean, and I would say it was the best Bond girl until like Vesper or till Lisa Seydoux character, because the Bond girl in GoldenEye isn't the Bond girl. So the Natalia.
Who'd you say? Oh, I thought you said Lucy Liu for some reason. I was like, oh, she'd be a great Bond girl.
No. The Bond girl, the Natalia.
Oh, yes.
She like knows more than Bond in a lot of situations. It has so much more agency, and she has her own motivations, and goes toe to toe like with Bond and doesn't. Oh yeah, I don't. It's really so contemporary and such a good Bond girl that the Bond franchise has always struggled with, because they've always kind of made the Bond girl a beautiful woman who goes along for the ride with James Bond. And Dr. No, what is it? What's her name? It's
Honey Rider.
Not
underneath
bad.
The mango tree,
but. It still suffers from the era where, even though she knows more about the area and she's like there on her, like, yeah, she's kind of got her own thing going on. I mean, it just over time, the Bond girls just get like really flat and single note, and all it's about is like them looking good. And they make attempts to like make the female Bond girl, or well, just the Bond girl, more contemporary, but they always half-ass it. And I feel like GoldenEye is arguably one of the first times where they really nail it, where it's she has depth, she has agency, it's very contemporary, she's an active participant in the plot, so on and so forth. And she's also a total smoke show, so you know.
Yeah, I like how she's introduced and she's got her own thing kind of going on with Alan Cumming and stuff, and they are contributing to the plot in a way. Before she's even introduced to Bond, she's already involved, as opposed to, there's other Bond girls that get introduced later in the movie or something and are essentially arm candy, and then meet a grisly end or something. And she has a reason to be there, which I like. I agree. What was my most recent? I'll do the Sleeping with the Enemy, 3.5 stars. I said, I've never been so scared seeing neatly folded towels. You'll understand if you see the movie. Also, calling the police to report a murder you are about to commit is cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Light spoilers, but you know, it's it was a pretty solid movie. Let's
it's like, unless you want to be caught.
yeah, you'll see in the movie. No? But man, just like fucking just holding a gun on someone and then just like calling down, I'd like to report him. Just bam. It's fucking sick. Let's check out some thoughts on House of a Thousand Corpses from these rabid fans. They might actually be a rabid if they're going for a movie like this. Ian, 5 stars. Ari Aster rips off Rosemary's Baby and The Wicker Man. Wow, such a master, delivering the greatest horror movies of our time. Quentin Tarantino spends his entire career paying homage to spaghetti westerns, martial arts movies, and more. One of the GOATs. Rob Zombie pays homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and debuts with a unique style that he displays in each and every one of his following films. No, such a hack and terrible filmmaker.
Okay. All right. It's not like you don't have to get so fucking sensitive.
Yeah. Can you clarify you're being sarcastic? Because I actually agree with everything you're saying if you mean that seriously, but if you're being sarcastic, like, yeah, he's a hack and a terrible filmmaker. Anyways, let's pull up another one from Mikey V, 5 stars. Otis ranting to the cheerleaders is me talking to the bathroom mirror at 2 a.m. From Jesse, 5 stars, an obscene and obnoxious assault on the senses with tons of pointless violence and other depravity. And I love it. I've always been a fan of anything zombie related, and it doesn't get much more him than this. The Firefly family have truly become iconic. There isn't much to say that horror fans haven't already said. With fall being just around the corner, I'm getting super stoked for spooky season. This was August 19th, 2021. Should I tell the film school guy I work with about my fondness of this movie tomorrow and watch him die inside?
Wow.
I love the ownership of like they're already manifesting an argument in their head about like, I like this, and when I express my love for it to other people, they're going to be mad at me. It's like, that has never even happened yet. You haven't even said it hasn't happened yet, but you're already manifesting like this thing of like, I like it and you don't. Nah.
Like people have done a wrong to you that they haven't committed yet. That's such a weird fallacy that, I mean, it's very human. A lot of people do that where they manifest how people are going to react or what they're going to think, but you can never fully know that. And so it is a fallacy to dictate your actions based on the assumption about how people are going to receive that. I mean, sure, there needs to be some tact and there needs to be some, like, you can't just, it's not good to just shout things and not care how people are going to feel about things, but don't, like, I don't know, if you really enjoy something, don't make it somebody out to be a bad guy before they even are a bad person. I don't know. Yeah,
it's like not quite guilty pleasure, but it's like a form of that where like you like something, but you're already thinking of this other layer of like, oh, maybe other people wouldn't appreciate that I like this, or the fact that I do like it makes me different. But you can just like it. Yeah, no shame, no guilt needed. Kat gave it a 5 stars. She's got a little spider in her name. That's cool. I don't know how you do that.
Oh, that's cool.
Clearly she's going to like House of a Thousand Corpses. 2023 first watch has to be one of my all-time favorites. We can expect an extraordinary movie that somehow tries to be everything in the best way. House of a Thousand Corpses is a colorful journey into hell, different and varied and a mix of everything. Rob Zombie likes to confuse. His viewers are consciously torn from their comfort with his reoccurring color changes so that they stay awake. This makes House of a Thousand Corpses a very intense experience and lives out its raw side in its purest form. But it isn't just a pure splatter movie. It's also a sympathetically designed freak show that you can really enjoy. Zombies' bloodshed aesthetic should be given a chance because even if it can be very hard, especially in the devilish finale, it was set rolling with love for detail and the right timing.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to think about the timing of it because it is such a product of its time. And I don't know if it could really be successful if it came out today, especially because we're now living in a post A24 world where I think a lot of audience members, when it comes to horror, have kind of shown by and large by their consumption and the numbers behind it that, people were starved for horror to move away from camp and go away from gore and by and large go away from jump scares and into more mood and like
dread and
like dread and that being much more effective as a tool of the genre than movies like this. Because if this came out today, I think it would just do terribly.
Yes, we're kind of a little bit past. It's not past the Blumhouse thing, but that's definitely had its heyday, and now it's become such a big thing that those exist too. But I think the most successful version is something that can be a drama or have characters that you're interested in at least, and but I'm trying to think of the most exploitative sort of thing that would happen today, and it just isn't quite the nature of it these days. And if it is, it's probably going to be on your Shudder streaming service or something like that. There's going to be a certain pocket that people really like horror movies will go in, and they'll find maybe some lower budget things like that. There's probably a lot of it out there. I don't know, the bargain bin at CVS or whatever has a lot of those kind of things. Even a movie that I came up with, Brandon, in our text chain with Blarge. Poltergeist, a ghost heist movie. It's already taken. Somebody already did it.
I know. Well, they didn't do it well, so we should still.
So we got to do it. So don't take my idea, folks. But I'm going to put Poltergeist out there, and it's going to happen one day.
Real quick. I mean, I just pulled up some of the most successful horror movies of the last couple years, and I guess I'd take back a little bit of maybe this could be successful if it was released today, because I mean, currently in the theater right now is Terrifier 3.
Oh my God. That's a good comp. Yeah.
And that its whole shtick is being so gross that people throw, like you hear articles, like that's kind of the whole thing about it is people are probably going to see that movie because they read articles of people throwing up, within, the beginning of the movie, and people walking out because it's so disgusting. So I haven't seen those. I don't know if you have. Maybe
I watched a little of Terrifier too, and it's just rough. It's just graphic, and the pacing though, I don't know. There's something about and I didn't watch much of it, but there was a little bit more of like, I could breathe a little bit between things, and this movie was just that, very of its time within the editing and, like you're saying, the color correction and all of that stuff that, I don't know how it would hold up today. And I don't know if it would be made the same way, but I guess there's a version that you're very right, where there's a version of that type of thing that is being peddled today that has its audience. So, which is not, then maybe I just come to terms with it's just not for me, this sort of thing. And I think that's not the first time on this podcast in a polarized movie where it's like, oh, it's just not for me, I guess, because it's clearly for these sickos. But I get being a sicko. I'm a sicko in my own way.
Yeah. I mean, also too, I think this movie wants to try to achieve what the Evil Dead stuff does really well, which is,
do you like those? I like those. Yeah.
Like be
great camp,
be pretty graphic, but also have like, camp and humor to it.
Great,
because this is made by somebody who finds enjoyment out of these practical effects and this grossness and the gore stuff, obviously, because that's trying to be communicated pretty clearly in this movie. But again, the reason that the Evil Dead movies are so successful in comparison is because the characters that are getting all of these bad things are happening to them, you sympathize with, and you clearly understand, like,
you have a hero, like there's a hero.
Yeah, you're right. You're rooting for somebody, and there's no one to root for in this movie.
There's a point, and there's an escalation of going down below in the book, but it's a vignette sort of thing where things kind of, it's a house of horrors and things kind of gradually happen. But I think I need to be able to digest it better, and this is everything thrown on the plate at once, and it's too much. So much so that it just turns, it's like every color just turns black or ugly brown instead of like having a nice image. I'll do one more from Brian Espadilla. 5 stars. Feels like the work of someone who wasn't sure they'd ever get the chance to make another movie again and threw everything into it. Stylistically deranged, insane debut. Seeing that split diopter shot on the big screen did something to me. What's a diopter?
Maybe I guess that would be the technical term of like it's split into 2 visuals in the same frame.
Yeah, where she's like dancing and you get the mirror
like cut in the center and then it's a mirror. Because diopter.
I guess, I say the split screen's pointless, but I guess like in that scene, you get a scene of like a shot of her and then a shot of the reaction in the same shot. But to what end? I think this is just not for me, this movie. And the polarizing nature of it sounds like, horror fans are an interesting group, like the really diehard ones that could throw something on like this and like, to fall asleep to or something, or like they enjoy, like you said, maybe the practical side of it, the style of it all. And that is strangely comforting to them or something. And I've gone back and tried to watch a little bit more like campy horror movies and things like that. And I have fun with them. I get that. I get the idea of it, but this one is just so purely upsetting and not a lot of joy to be had. And nothing to glob onto for me. And that was difficult for me, but, should I just give my score as well?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think any other any other final thoughts? I think overall it's just not for me. It didn't do anything. It just didn't do anything for me. And it actually, made me upset and grossed out and disgusted. And it was making me wonder if I was like too hard on other movies in our past catalog of polarizing movies. But it's difficult for me to come up with something redeeming about it. And the attempt at doing a 70s style cinematography and everything had flashes of cool stuff. There's some flashes of interesting sets, and the surgeon down below I thought was a cool look and outfit. If I just saw a Rob Zombie video or something, but that looks cool. If I was playing Elden Ring and that guy came out to fucking battle me, or Baldur's Gate 3 or some shit, and I saw that surgeon guy and be like, oh, this is cool fucking design. But anything good was just washed out with all the bad. So it's going to get a really bad score for me. I'll do a 9.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Do a 9. 9%. Dude.
Yeah.
9%. Really didn't do anything for me, and I'm never going to want to see this again. I mean, if you want to do Devil's Rejects, we can do Devil's Rejects at some point. I'm not completely opposed to it, but
it's just, I'm interested in.
I wouldn't recommend it, and I wouldn't watch it again. And I would be curious to hear from someone who did really like it, what they liked about it a little bit more in detail, I guess, just to maybe there's other, references and other things that I don't understand, but that shouldn't matter. I should be able to walk into the movie and decide if I enjoyed it or not without having to see a bunch of other stuff, in my opinion. And that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it, a 9%, baby. Or I could do a 10.00 House of 10.00 Corpses.
Oh, wow. That's so fun. That's so fun. Okay. This is a discussion where I think I've overall said how I feel about it pretty clearly throughout the whole discussion. I don't need to belabor the point. This doesn't add anything to the genre. It is somewhat respectable that it is interested in highlighting some of the parts of previous movies that are interesting or are iconic or fundamental to the genre, but it's very hacky in the sense that it doesn't really add anything more to it. And then just as an overall movie experience, I mean, it's shitty people saying shitty stuff to shitty, like, it's just, no one is redeemable, no one is good. And it doesn't necessarily need to have like good people, but it needs to have people who are more like natural, or who are just at least more relatable, I guess. And this movie doesn't do that at all. It just it just is filled with all of these extreme characters that, again, could be okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard not to think about how this movie could be better, because there's so many things that it just doesn't get right, or just doesn't like fully commit to. And so it does just kind of elicit the like, see what you're doing here, and I see where your influences lie, but it's just, there's nothing new being said here, or there's nothing interesting to latch onto. So I mean, overall it's just washes over you, and it's forgettable too. I mean, you know what, I'm gonna fucking join you. I'm gonna give this a 9% too, man. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Single digit this motherfucker.
Let's put this movie in a body bag. Let's put it in the house of 1,000 corpses. Here's another corpse for your house. Yeah.
It's I don't think it should be remembered. I think it's got a pretty fucking cool name. I think the name's kind of cool.
I think the name is cool.
I think the name has like made me like it made me curious about like, I should watch that sometimes, because that sounds like it'd be a kind of a classic scary movie, like House on Haunted Hill, or I don't know, like the modern take of it or whatever. But
Cabin.
Yeah, remember 13 Ghosts. We just had more numbers in our titles too. That's been our hot take on House of 1,000 Corpses, to a movie that has been around a while. We just got to it, and I think we'll leave it back in 2003 or wherever. I think it belongs there. And to all the people that love and enjoy it, I hope you still continue to, and hope our opinions didn't change that, because don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but this is just not for us guys over here. But we are not done with spooky. Not done with spooky season. We're gonna fit in another one, and it will be a little bit more lighthearted. We will be doing for next time a little movie. When is this movie from? I don't have the year in front of me. 1998's Practical Magic with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman will be our next feature. It is very polarizing on Rotten Tomatoes. It carries a 25% from the critics. They do not care for it. What was the House of a Thousand Corpses was 22, and this is 25. So this is only 3% better than House of a Thousand Corpses, according to critics, which kind of blows my mind. But it is a 73% by the audience. And we're going to check it out. It's going to be a witchy good time. And we hope you join us. Should I do a little, I'll do a little synopsis here. Sally and Gillian Owens, born into a magical family, have mostly avoided witchcraft themselves. But when Gillian's vicious boyfriend, Jimmy Angelov, dies unexpectedly, the Owens sisters give themselves a crash course in hard magic. With policeman Gary Hallett growing suspicious, the girls struggle to resurrect Angelov and unwittingly inject his corpse with an evil spirit that threatens to end their family line. Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman, Diane Wiest, Aidan Quinn, love that guy. A very young Evan Rachel Wood. We're gonna have a good time, hopefully a better time than this one. Appreciate everybody sticking around for a discussion of a lot of criticism towards the movie, but I think it helped release a lot of pent up anger and gross outedness from this movie. So I'm glad I was able to have a little therapy session with my Polarized Pod best co-host in the biz, the great Brandini. Appreciate you, man. Is there anything you want to share with the people before we sign off?
No. Just make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps us out. Just want to say that. But that's it. Yeah,
please do. If you want to send us a line, polarizedthepod@gmail.com. Come catch us live, twitch.tv/polarizedpod. We stream live whenever we do it, and would love to have you. And we appreciate you all. Hope you're having a wonderful spooky season, and we'll see you next time.